Once Human is getting some massive changes and updates, brand new systems that will change the entire way that your account is played. We'll go over all the details for the new update preview, as well as some additional discrepancies there and some further information. We'll cover some last minute mentionables from the community, the new shop update dropping here very soon, as well as a whole bunch more. What's up world, it's Utopia back here with another video. Today we're checking out all things Once Human. Okay, so let's just jump right into the new update, the future content plan there, and all the changes that are going to be happening. So as their opener, they do mention there's going to be new features for the blueprint conversion, the stellar stairway system, and even a new scenario exit function, alongside extensive updates to the core gameplay experience. Now this is planned to be launched on March 13th, where they first up, yes, have the permanent servers. Now they of course mentioned that currently servers usually just automatically close after a certain period of time, and that usually characters are transferred to Eternalland. However, they've seen a ton of feedback here, like players not being able to experience, people not being able to return, so they do plan to bring those permanent servers. Again, that is launching March 13th. All current servers will be converted into a permanent server after the last initial phase. Again, that will take around 2 hours, I did cover this before, and you could choose to remain on that server or return to Eternalland or even sign up for a new server. So there will be those changes there. We did also go over this notion already in the previous video, but characters that are inactive for 30 days will not be transferred to a permanent server, and eventually they will be moved to Eternalland, although later they will accommodate for returning players, so that might be changed later on to 180 days. They also do mention, of course, that servers will be merged, and that depending on the scenario type and the wheel status, that will be merged as well. Things that don't have the wheel status or the visual wheel, those will not retain that. Although they do mention here that permanent servers will be kept in their original states, and that only updates and changes can be applied to a new server that will not affect the permanent server. So major scenario changes such as regions, modifications to existing regions, or additional removal of public crisis events, new mematics or changes to mematics, changes to seasonal goals or seasonal challenges, map changes, and new modes based on the seasonal phase. Those are the things that will not be changed. However, the things that can be changed is new content that isn't exclusive to new servers. So construction optimizations, new building materials, changes, optimizations there in general, stuff to ranching, farming, weapon balance, cosmetics, events, and bug fix and optimizations further. And also in future updates, they'll specifically indicate whether or not the new content will be applied to a permanent server. As they do mention here that visual wheel updates for permanent servers will continue, so the next visual wheel theme will start on a permanent server. It will not retain the previous visual wheel theme. So when Lunar Oracle ends, even on those permanent servers, it will end on those permanent servers as well. They do mention here that permanent servers are, of course, to optimize the seasonal system for returning players, gameplay issues, and even new players in general, so that everyone can play at their own pace. And it's just nice to have options there overall. Now we do have a brand new PvE scenario called the Endless Dream. Just like that PvP scenario that I talked about, which is the Seeds of Chaos, they are bringing out a new PvE scenario and they finally have named it. They say here that banish the nightmares and guard the dawn. This year they'll introduce the new scenario in an ever-shifting dreamscape. You'll hunt down the original entity behind the nightmares and awaken the world from its terrible slumber. They actually do go over the scenario features here, where they do mention here that it's going to be a fully accessible map. So you'll be able to explore every region from the Broken Delta to Ember Strand. So this does actually include Way of Winter areas, and that's going to be possible from the start. There's also going to be dynamic environment effects, which include challenges that evolve over the course of time, depending on the server's actions. So that might be unique depending on what server you play on. There's also going to be greater freedom. You can use construction mode outside of your territory and creatively utilize facilities to your advantage, which is a really cool feature there. I wonder if that's going to get a bit out of hand, but that should make servers very unique. There's also going to be a new flexible pacing, where again, explorable regions will no longer be restricted by seasonal phase, but the seasonal phase will advance based on the player's progress in hunting the original entity. So depending on how fast and how good your server is, it will unlock there. Really unique feature there, so you're definitely going to want to get on a populated server, at least if you want the faster pace. And of course, if you want a slower pace, go for a less populated server. Now they do actually cover the scenario concept here. There's a sleeper manifest that will influence and warp the surrounding wilderness into a dreamscape of unpredictable changes. You might find yourself engulfed in darkness or afflicted with strange vulnerabilities, becoming unusually weak, flammable, or even explosive. This will transform deviants and resources within the world and change how players interact and battle with them. They hope these changes will bring a variety of combinations to explore and combat, while ensuring that every area and play session offers a unique experience. that is kind of the encapsulation of the new scenario. So we did get a ton of new details there for the PvE one. We also have the cross-character asset sharing that's being planned for March 27th. So essentially here, you're now going to have your alt share everything from your main character, so that way when you do create a new character or try out a different scenario or want to play with your friends, you'll be able to share those assets together. So everything like your blueprints, your mods, your weapons, your cosmetics, current tokens, your phantom cubes, even your stellar stairway and star crown will be saved. And they do mention here that the collection level will be shared at the account level. So whatever that is, it will be shared. Now, some people have had some concerns here about alt characters and if they would be merged or deleted. Essentially, if you have a 6-star on an alt, will those upgrades be merged? Now, this might have been a translation issue, as some comments do point out here, but they do say original, ladder progress, star colors, and blueprints will be shared at the account level. And as they mention here, this significant part, blueprints, blueprint fragments, and blueprint collection levels will be shared at the account level. But they also do say here that blueprint data of the character with the highest blueprint collection level will be shared there. So they will be essentially merged, so don't worry. If you do have higher blueprint levels on your alt characters, those will actually be shared. Again, everything from emblem, unlocks, weapon remaining cards, or phantom cubes, mods, accessories, those are also going to be shared as well. Now, anything like weapon accessories, cosmetics, or formulas, those will automatically be disassembled during the merging process. Now, if you do have items that you want to share across your accounts here, it looks like at the account depot, you can deposit items and equipment into your Eternal Land, which will then be stored into the account depot and can be converted in your Spacetime Backpack, which can then be withdrawn to your Spacetime Backpack. You can then use resource points to transfer them to your scenario. So it looks like you will be able to share items across characters. However, they do mention here that items not sent to the Spacetime Backpack during season settlement temporarily cannot be transferred between characters. They do plan to optimize that in the future to allow more items to be transferred between those characters though. Still a cool thing there that lets you kind of transfer stuff from your alts. Now they do mention here, why can't my Stellar Stairway progress, Star Crown, or Blueprint data be aggregated? Why is only the highest level being taken? They do mention that it would create too much of a gap there. I do agree though that if you had alts and were farming up Star Crown, it would be inflated way too much. And also if they did combine your blueprint levels, that would also be way too OP. But taking the highest level I do think is fair. However, there will be some compensation there. So if you do have a ton of alts, basically the collection of it, or your other character's aggregated blueprint collection level, they will give you some Star Crown compensation here. All the way up to 40,000. However, you have to be level 271 above. You can of course refer to this graphic here if you do want to check out what you're going to be receiving. And you will be getting that compensation via the mail, which happens after the 27th update. Now there has been some additional optimizations here. They're going to focus on more streamlined methods of getting morphed deviations. They do plan to announce that acquisition method in the future. They're also going to be improving the rules for spawning deviations when opening Lunar Oracle crates. Deviations belonging to certain players will be prioritized, and there will be a cap at the total number of visible deviations. That way you can't just spam that or have anything there, and that way there's no confusion preventing players trying to capture their deviation. After the March 27th update, they are going to change the resource allocation and some optimizations there. This is for high-risk zones with higher yields. They'll include advanced resources and some new rare resources, and that should enhance the risk to reward experience of exploring. There's going to be some advanced resource types, some mimetic specialization effect values, new special ammo and tactical items will also be added. But the biggest point here is that controllers and all controller related features will be removed. Now this is not meaning an Xbox controller or PlayStation controller. This is meaning that the controllers that you do utilize in dungeons to receive more rewards or higher yields, those will be removed. Affected rewards will now yield mods directly, but some resources have been relocated to high-risk zones. So basically a lot of the things that people kind of complain with that mobile mechanic have been completely removed. I wonder if we'll see any compensation with that. Again, they do say more details on that in the future. Now they are doing some additional construction optimizations here for the power management. Generators in your territory will now automatically be connected and form electrical networks by default, eliminating the need to manually lay cables. We're in construction mode, and it seems like only in construction mode you'll be able to view the current power consumption in real time, where you can monitor that. So there probably won't be any more visual cables. I do think that was kind of annoyance anyways. There's also some water and production optimizations here. There's a new smart output management. Now this system is going to allow you to manually select outputs, and that will be dependent on the resources of the current region. So like a water filter, the brewing barrel will also let you choose other outputs, making it a little bit easier to manage production lines. And now the offline output will now automatically be calculated based on your offline time. So that should resolve all the issues with the production stagnation while offline. They're also going to be removing some of the redundant connections, making it all more visually appealing. Now they're additionally going to be doing some territory relocation and construction optimizations. which do include a new smart terrain system, so territory relocation with significant terrain variation will also be improved. Trees and rocks within a large target area will now be cleared automatically, removing the need for tedious manual clearance. There's going to be more creative ways also with building, including mirror steers and half-height fences. Now, a lot of people were asking for that one. They're also going to be adding a green target preview in the construction mode, which should make it easier to see the target's texture and orientation. And they are basically giving their new stance on this, that a construction system will allow for more freedom, and their plan is to optimize and revamp that system as it goes. There's going to be more improvements to load system, snapping rules, building permissions, and even house blueprint sharing. They do want to give players the freedom of choice there, freedom of building, and that's going to be dependent for each scenario. They do actually have a closing statement here with this, where they do cover that there remains much for improvement. They do have faith that our suggestions and criticism will help improve the game. And they even mentioned, please don't hold back, let them know your thoughts on that. So they at least are pretty open about constructive criticism. Now, we also had a dev talk, but this has essentially been combined. Typically, the dev notes are a bit separate there with the patch notes, or at least the updated content structure. However, it is essentially the same, or it does mirror exactly with the patch note. There is one last minute mentionable here with the shop update. We will be getting that Camila Chase skin very soon here, so keep out for a future shop update with that. Overall, I should about cover for today's video. If you like, subscribe. Until the next one. Deuces.